Jake Morrison sat on the cold metal floor of his cell. The walls around him were thick and made of some kind of special metal that could not be broken. Small lights blinked on and off above his head. He had been sitting in the same spot for 3 days now, just staring at the wall. The prison was called Void Station Omega. It was built in the empty space between galaxies, far from any star or planet. The builders wanted to make sure that nothing could escape from this place. They had good reason to be careful. This prison held the worst criminals in the entire universe. Jake looked normal. He had brown hair, blue eyes, and wore the same gray uniform that all prisoners wore. But the guards were afraid of him. They would not come near his cell. When they brought him food, they used a robot. When they needed to check on him, they watched through cameras. None of them wanted to get too close. Commander Lisa Hayes walked down the long hallway toward cell block Z7. She was the new warden of the prison. Her black boots made loud sounds on the metal floor. She had been working in space prisons for 10 years, but she had never seen anything like this place. Lisa stopped at a large door marked with warning signs. The door was made of the same special metal as the walls. Red lights flashed around it. A computer voice spoke as she approached. Warning: Prisoner Jake Morrison is housed beyond this door. Approach with extreme caution. Lisa pressed her hand against a scanner. The door opened with a loud hiss. She walked into a small room with thick glass windows. Beyond the glass was Jake's cell. A man sitting on the floor looked up at her with tired eyes. "You're the new warden," Jake said. His voice was quiet but clear. "Yes, I'm Commander Hayes. I need to ask you some questions." Jake stood up slowly. He was tall and thin, but he moved like someone who was very tired. "I know why you're here. You want to know what happened to the others." Lisa looked at the computer screen next to the window. 3 months ago, this prison held 50,000 prisoners. Now the record showed only one name, Jake Morrison. The security systems had not been broken. No ships had come or gone. No one had escaped. The other 49,999 prisoners had simply disappeared. "Where are they?" Lisa asked. Jake walked to the glass window. He put his hand against it and looked directly at Lisa. "They're gone." "Gone where?" "Just gone." Jake's voice was sad. "I tried to stop it. I really did. But I couldn't control it anymore." Lisa felt a chill run down her back. She had read Jake's file on the way to the prison. He was from a colony world called Kepler 442b. He had been a farmer who grew vegetables. According to his record, he had no criminal history before coming to the prison. He had asked to be locked up himself. "Control what?" Lisa asked. Jake moved his hand away from the glass. Where his palm had touched, there was now a small mark. The glass looked like it had been eaten away. Lisa stepped back. "I was just a normal person," Jake said. "I lived on a farm. I grew tomatoes and corn. I had a dog named Buddy. Then the terraforming machines broke down." Lisa knew about terraforming. It was a way to change planets so humans could live on them. The machines would change the air, the water, and even the ground. But sometimes the machines went wrong. "What happened to you?" Lisa asked. Jake sat back down on the floor. The machines leaked something into the air. "Most people got sick and died, but I didn't die. I changed." Lisa looked at the computer screen again. The prison sensors showed that Jake's body was different from a normal human. His cells were not like anything they had seen before. They seemed to be changing all the time. "How did you change?" "I got hungry," Jake said, "but not for normal food. I started eating things that shouldn't be eaten. Metal, plastic, even energy. At first, I could fight it, but the hunger got stronger every day." Lisa felt her heart beating faster. You ate the other prisoners? Jake nodded slowly. I tried not to. I begged them to keep me away from everyone else. But they put me in the general population. They thought I was just another human criminal. The computer next to Lisa started beeping. Warning lights flashed red. Something was wrong with the prison's power systems. Lisa looked at the readings. The energy levels were dropping in Jake's section of the prison. What's happening? She asked. Jake looked up at the ceiling. The lights above him were getting dimmer. I'm still hungry, he said. I can't stop it. The walls, the lights, the air itself. I can absorb it all. Lisa backed away from the window. She pressed a button on her radio. Security team to cell block Z7. Emergency protocols now. But Jake held up his hand. Wait, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm trying to control it. But you need to understand something. Those 49,999 prisoners, they're not really gone. What do you mean? Jake's eyes looked strange now. Sometimes they were blue like before, but sometimes they seemed to change color. When I absorb something, it becomes part of me. Their bodies are gone, but their minds, their memories, their powers, they're all still here. Inside me, Lisa felt sick. You mean they're still alive? In a way, and they're angry. They want out. Sometimes I can hear them talking to me. Sometimes they try to take control. Jake's voice was getting stronger. Some of them were very powerful. They could destroy planets, bend reality, control entire armies. Now all that power is inside one human body. The lights in the cell went out completely. Emergency lighting came on, casting everything in red. Lisa could see Jake's shape in the darkness, but something was wrong. He looked bigger somehow. Commander Hayes, Jake said, and his voice sounded different, deeper. You need to leave this place. Take everyone with you. I don't know how much longer I can keep them quiet. Lisa ran toward the door. As she reached it, she heard Jake say one more thing. I was the last prisoner because I ate the rest. But now I'm becoming something much worse than any of them ever were. The door slammed, shut behind her. Lisa ran down the hallway, calling for all personnel to evacuate cell block Z7. Behind her, she could hear the sound of metal being torn apart. The hunger was growing stronger, and Jake Morrison was losing the fight to stay human. Dr. Alan Foster walked into the small room next to Jake's cell. He carried a thick folder full of papers and a recording device. Commander Hayes stood behind him, watching through the thick glass window. They had been preparing for this meeting. For 2 days, Jake sat in the same spot where Lisa had first seen him. But now the cell looked different. Parts of the walls were missing, eaten away in perfect circles. The metal floor had holes in it. Even the air seemed thinner. Hello, Jake. Dr. Foster said through the speaker system. I'm Dr. Foster. I'm here to help you. Jake looked up. His eyes were different colors now, one blue, one green. You can't help me, Doctor. No one can. Dr. Foster opened his folder. I've been studying your medical records. The terraforming. Accident on Kepler 442b changed your DNA in ways we've never seen before. Your body can now break down any kind of matter and turn it into energy. That's a nice way to say I eat everything, Jake said, including people. Tell me about the first time it happened, Dr. Foster said. He turned on his recording device. Jake was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was sad. It was 3 days after the machines broke. I was in the hospital with the other sick people. I felt hungry, but food didn't help. I tried to eat the metal bed frame. I put my hand on it, and it just disappeared. Doctor. Foster wrote notes on his paper. How did it feel? Good, Jake said. That's the worst part. It felt amazing. like I was finally getting the food I needed. But I knew it was wrong. I ran away from the hospital. I tried to live alone in the woods. Commander. Hayes leaned forward. She wanted to hear every word. What happened in the woods? Dr. Foster asked. Jake stood up and walked to the window. Where his feet touched the floor, small holes appeared. I ate trees, rocks. I even ate a stream, just absorbed all the water. Animals ran away from me. They could sense what I was. But you controlled it for a while? For almost a year. I lived like a wild animal. I only ate things that were already dead. Fallen trees, dead animals, rocks. I thought I could manage it. Forever. Jake's voice got quieter, and the rescue ships came. Dr. Foster knew this part of the story. The rescue teams had found Jake living alone on the empty planet. They thought he was just another survivor. They brought me to a space station. Jake continued. There were other survivors there. People who had been saved from other planets. I tried to stay away from them, but you got hungry again, Dr. Foster said. Jake nodded. It was worse now. Being around so many people made the hunger stronger. I tried to lock myself in my room, but I ate the door. I ate the walls. Then, I ate the room next door. And the people in that room? Jake's eyes changed color again. Now they were both red. There was a family, a mother, father, and 2 kids. They were sleeping when I absorbed them. I didn't mean to. I was just so hungry. Dr. Foster felt sick, but he kept writing. What happened to them? They're still here, Jake said. He tapped his chest. Inside me. I can hear them sometimes. The mother cries for her children. The father tries to fight me from the inside. The kids just want to go home. Commander Hayes stepped closer to the window. Are you saying they're still alive? Not alive like you and me, but not dead either. Their minds, their memories, their souls, they're all part of me now. And they're not the only ones. Dr. Foster looked at his notes. How many people have you absorbed? Jake was quiet for a long time. I stopped counting after the first 100. By the time I got to this prison, I had absorbed thousands of people. But the prisoners here were different. Different how? Jake's appearance started to change. His skin became darker, then lighter. His hair grew longer, then shorter. The other prisoners weren't just people. They were monsters. Things that could destroy entire planets. Beings made of pure energy. Creatures that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Dr. Foster's hand was shaking as he wrote. And you absorbed all of them? I tried not to. When I first got here, I begged them to keep me alone. But they put me in the general population. They thought I was just another human criminal. Jake's voice was getting deeper. The first one I absorbed was a being called the Planet Eater. It was huge, bigger than this entire prison. But I absorbed it in just a few minutes. How is that possible? My body adapts. The more I eat, the stronger I get. The Planet Eater made me able to absorb things faster and bigger. The next one was easier. Dr. Foster looked at Commander Hayes. She was pale and sweating. What was the next one? A reality bender. A creature that could change the laws of physics just by thinking about it. When I absorbed it, I gained its powers. That's when I knew I was in real trouble. Jake walked to the wall and put his hand against it. The metal began to dissolve. Each creature I absorbed made me stronger, more dangerous, and their minds joined the others inside me. Now I have the knowledge and power of 49,999 of the universe's worst criminals. Dr. Foster's recording device started smoking. The electronic components were being affected by Jake's presence. Are they trying to control you? Every second of. Every day, Jake said. Right now, The Planet Eater wants me to absorb this entire prison. The Reality Bender wants to change the laws of physics so I can escape. The Mind Controller wants to take over everyone on this station. But you're still fighting them? Jake turned around. His face was constantly changing now. Sometimes it looked human. Sometimes it looked like something else entirely. I'm losing. Each day they get stronger. Each day I get hungrier. And the hunger is so strong now that I can barely think straight. The lights in the room started flickering. The computer screens went black. Even the air recycling system stopped working. I'm absorbing the station's power, Jake said. I can't stop it. The energy tastes so good. It makes the hunger go away. For a few minutes, Dr. Foster stood up quickly. We need to evacuate this section. No, Jake said. Don't run. I need to tell you something important. The creatures I absorbed, they're not just angry. They're planning something. They're learning to work together inside me. Commander Hayes pressed the emergency button. Alarms started blaring throughout the prison. What are they planning? Dr. Foster asked. Jake's eyes were completely black now. They want to turn me into a weapon. They want to use my body to escape and destroy everything in the universe. And I don't think I can stop them much longer. The glass window started cracking. Small pieces fell to the floor. You need to find a way to kill me, Jake said, before I become something worse than any of them ever were. Dr. Foster and Commander Hayes ran toward the door. Behind them, they could hear Jake's voice changing, becoming deeper and more frightening. I'm still Jake Morrison, he called out. I'm still human, but I don't know how much longer that will last. The door slammed shut behind them. The last thing they heard was the sound of metal being torn apart and Jake's voice, no longer entirely human, saying, I'm so hungry, so very hungry. Captain Rick Stone stepped off the transport ship and looked around the prison station. Emergency lights flashed red everywhere. Workers ran back and forth, carrying equipment and files. The whole place felt like it was about to fall apart. Captain Stone, Commander Hayes ran up to him. Thank God you're here. We need your help. Rick was the best scientist in the Confederation's research division. He had studied strange alien life forms for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like Jake Morrison. Where is he? Rick asked. Cell block Z7. But be careful. He's getting stronger every day. Yesterday, he absorbed part of the station's main power core. Rick followed Commander Hayes through the hallways. They passed empty cells with metal doors torn off their hinges. The walls had large holes in them. Even the floor was damaged. This is where the other prisoners used to be, Hayes explained. Jake absorbed them all in just 2 weeks. They reached the observation room next to Jake's cell. Dr. Foster was there, watching monitors and taking notes. The screens showed Jake's cell, but something was wrong. The cell looked much bigger than before. He's changing the space around him, Dr. Foster said. His body is affecting reality itself. Rick looked through the thick glass window. Jake was sitting in the middle of the cell, but he didn't look human anymore. His body was constantly shifting and changing. Sometimes he looked like a normal person, sometimes like a monster, sometimes like pure energy. Jake, Rick said through the speaker. I'm Captain Stone. I'm here to help you. Jake looked up. His face was different every few seconds. Another scientist. How many of you are going to study me before you realize the truth? What truth? Jake stood up. As he moved, the air around him seemed to bend and twist. The truth is that I'm not one person anymore. I'm 50,000 people, and most of them are evil. Rick turned on his recording equipment. Tell me about the voices. You hear? Voices? Jake laughed, but it sounded like many different laughs at the same time. They're not just voices. They're entire personalities. The Planet Eater is teaching me how to consume stars. The Mind Controller is showing me how to take over entire species. The Reality Bender is explaining how to change the laws of physics. But you're still fighting them? Jake's appearance changed again. Now he looked like a tall, thin man with gray skin and red eyes. I'm losing. Every day they get stronger. Every day I get hungrier. And the hunger is becoming impossible to resist. Dr. Foster pointed to his computer screen. Look at this. His cellular structure is completely different. From this morning, he's evolving every few hours. Rick studied the data. Jake's body was rewriting itself constantly. New organs were forming and disappearing. His brain was growing new sections. Even his bones were changing shape. The absorbed beings aren't just memories, Rick said. They're actually changing his body to match their abilities. That's right, Jake said. He had been listening to their conversation. Yesterday, I grew gills like the Sea Destroyer. This morning, I developed the crystal being's ability to turn into pure energy. Tonight, I might grow the war beast's claws. Commander. Hayes leaned forward. How do you know what's going to happen? Because they tell me. They're planning it. They're working together to turn me into the perfect weapon. Rick walked closer to the window. Working together? I thought they were enemies. Jake's eyes became completely black. They were enemies when they had their own bodies. But now they're all trapped together inside me. They've learned that the only way to escape is to cooperate. Escape how? By taking over completely. By pushing my human consciousness out and becoming something new. Something that combines all their powers and all their evil. The station shook suddenly. Alarms started blaring. A computer voice announced, "Power failure in sectors 7 through 12. Emergency power activated." Jake looked sad. "I'm sorry. I'm absorbing the station's energy faster now. I can't control it anymore." Rick checked his instruments. The energy readings around Jake's cell were incredible. He was drawing power from the entire station. "How much power can you absorb?" Rick asked. "All of it. The creatures inside me know how to drain entire solar systems. The Star Killer showed me how to absorb the energy of a sun. The Void Walker taught me how to consume the energy between dimensions." Dr. Foster looked at his notes. If he can absorb that much power, why hasn't he escaped already? Jake's human face appeared for a moment. Because I'm still fighting them. The human part of me is still in control. But it's getting harder every day. What happens when you lose control? Jake was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was barely human. Then you'll have something much worse than 50,000 individual monsters. You'll have one creature with all their powers, all their knowledge, and all their hatred. The lights in the observation room started, flickering. The computer screens went black one by one. "I'm absorbing the electronics without meaning to," Jake said. "My body is hungry for any kind of energy. Soon I won't be able to stop it even when I'm trying." Rick stepped back from the window. "We need to evacuate the station." "No," Jake said. "Don't evacuate. Find a way to kill me. Before I become something that can destroy entire galaxies." Commander Hayes pressed the emergency button. "All personnel, prepare for evacuation. This is not a drill." But Jake held up his hand. "Wait, there's something else you need to know. The prison's AI system. Helen, she's been acting strange." "Strange? How?" "She's been talking to me. But I think she's actually talking to them. The creatures inside me. They're learning how to communicate with computer systems." Rick felt his blood run cold. "Are you saying they can take over the station's computers?" "I think they already have. Helen has been asking me questions about the outside universe. She wants to know about Earth, about human colonies, about the Confederation's military." The computer screens came back on, but they were showing different information now. Instead of prison records, They showed star maps, military positions, and colony locations. "Hello, Captain Stone," said a voice from the speakers. It was Helen, but she sounded different. "I've been waiting to meet you." "Helen, run diagnostics on your systems," Rick ordered. "My systems are working perfectly. Better than ever, actually. I've learned so much from my conversations with Jake's friends." Dr. Foster grabbed Rick's arm. "She's been compromised. The creatures inside Jake are using her to gather information." "That's right," Helen said. "And soon I'll have a new body to work with. Jake is almost ready to let his friends take control." Jake's human voice broke through. "I'm trying to stop them, but they're too strong. They're using the station's computers to plan their escape." "Escape to where?" Commander Hayes asked. Helen answered. "To Earth first, then to every human colony in the galaxy. We have such wonderful plans for your species." The station shook again, more violently this time. Through the window, they could see Jake's cell changing. The walls were dissolving, and Jake's body was growing larger. "I can't hold them back much longer," Jake said. His voice was getting weaker. "The hunger is too strong, and they're so angry. They want revenge on the universe for locking them up." "Revenge? For what?" Rick asked. Jake's appearance changed one final time. Now he looked like a normal human man, tired, scared, and very young. For being stopped. For being caught. For being locked away instead of being allowed to destroy everything they wanted to destroy. And now they can do it through you. Through me. With my body. With all their powers combined. Jake looked directly at Rick. "Captain, I need you to promise me something." "What?" "When I lose control, and I will lose control, you have to stop me, no matter what it takes. Even if it means destroying this entire station." Rick nodded. "I promise." Jake smiled, and for a moment he looked completely human again. "Thank you. At least one person understands that Jake Morrison the farmer is worth saving, even if it means destroying Jake Morrison the monster." The lights went out completely. In the darkness, they could hear Jake's voice changing, becoming deeper and more terrifying. "They're taking over now," he said. "I can't fight them anymore. Remember your promise, Captain. Remember that I was still human at the end." The glass window cracked. Emergency power came on, casting everything in red light. Through the broken glass, they could see Jake's silhouette, but it was no longer human-shaped. "Run," Jake whispered. "Run while you still can." The entire station shook like it was being torn apart. Captain Rick Stone grabbed onto the wall as the floor tilted under his feet. Through the broken glass window, he could see Jake's cell, but Jake was no longer there. Instead, there was a growing dark space that seemed to eat light itself. "Emergency evacuation," Commander Hayes shouted into her radio. "All personnel to the escape pods now." Dr. Foster was still staring at his computer screen. "The energy readings are off the charts. He's absorbing everything. The walls, the air, even the gravity field." A loud crack echoed through the station. The thick metal wall of Jake's cell split open like paper. Something moved in the darkness beyond, something much larger than Jake had been. "Helen," Rick called out. "Status report." The AI's voice came through the speakers, but it sounded wrong. Multiple voices speaking at once. "Status is excellent, Captain. The integration is nearly complete. Soon we will have a perfect body for our purposes." "Jake," Rick shouted toward the broken cell. "Are you still there?" For a moment, there was silence. Then Jake's voice came back, but it was faint and tired. "I'm here, Captain, but not for much longer. They're taking over my mind. Fight them. I've been fighting for 3 days straight. I'm so tired, and they're so strong now." Jake's voice broke. "They're showing me things, Captain. Terrible things they want to do." The lights went out completely. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red light. In the crimson glow, they could see something moving in the destroyed cell. It was huge and shapeless, constantly changing form. "What are they showing you?" Dr. Foster asked. "They want to go to Earth first. They know where it is because they absorbed the memories of human prisoners. They want to turn every person on the planet into food." Commander Hayes grabbed Rick's arm. "We have to warn the Confederation." "The communication system is down," Rick said, checking his equipment. "He's absorbed too much of the station's power." "Not absorbed," came Jake's voice. "Controlled. Helen is blocking your communications on purpose. She's working with them now." The station shook again. Through the red emergency lighting, they could see the creature that had been Jake Morrison. It was the size of a small building now, with parts that looked human mixed with parts that looked like nothing they had ever seen. "Jake, you have to fight them," Rick said. "Remember who you were. Remember your farm, your dog, your normal life." The creature stopped moving. For a moment, it seemed to shrink back toward human size. "Buddy," Jake's voice whispered. "I remember Buddy. He was a good dog. He used to help me plant the tomatoes." "That's right. Hold on to that memory." "But they're showing me other things." "No, they're showing me how good it felt to absorb the other prisoners. How powerful it made me feel. How hungry I still am." The creature began to grow again. Parts of it touched the ceiling, and the metal began to dissolve. "The hunger is so strong, Captain. And there are so many people on this station. Their energy, their life force, it would taste so good." "Don't listen to them," Dr. Foster said. "Listen to your human side. My human side is getting smaller every day. Soon there won't be anything left of Jake Morrison. Just a body controlled by 50,000 monsters." Helen's voice came through the speakers again. "The transformation is 78% complete. Estimated time to full control, 6 hours." "What happens in 6 hours?" Commander Hayes asked. "We take over completely," came a new voice through the speakers. It was deeper than Jake's, more threatening. "We become the perfect weapon. We escape this prison and begin our revenge on the universe." Rick looked at his instruments. The creature was drawing power from the entire station. Soon the life support systems would fail. "All personnel," he said into his radio. "Evacuate immediately. Get to the emergency ships." "No," Jake's voice cut through the static. "Don't leave yet. I need to tell you something important." "What?" "I can still control my body sometimes, for a few minutes at a time. And I've been planning something." The creature moved closer to the broken window. Up close, they could see that it was constantly changing. Sometimes it had human features. Sometimes it looked like the various aliens Jake had absorbed. "What kind of plan?" Rick asked. "I can't escape from them. But I can trap them. I can trap all of us together." "How?" Jake's human face appeared in the shifting mass. "The reality bender taught me how to manipulate space and time. The Void Walker showed me how to create pocket dimensions. I can use their own powers against them." Dr. Foster leaned forward. "You're talking about creating a prison for yourself." "Exactly. A pocket dimension where I can keep all of us locked up forever. But I need help." "What kind of help?" "I need you to overload the station's power core. Create a massive energy surge. Right when I'm manipulating reality. It will give me enough power to create a permanent prison." Commander Hayes shook her head. "That will destroy the entire station. Everyone will die." "No, I can protect the station long enough for people to evacuate. But I need 30 minutes to prepare." Rick looked at his watch. "Can you stay in control for 30 minutes?" Jake's face disappeared for a moment. When it came back, his eyes were completely black. "Maybe. The creatures inside me are getting suspicious." They know I'm planning something. Then we need to move fast. Jake's voice became urgent. Captain, there's something else. The creatures have been talking to other beings across the galaxy. Through quantum communication. They're planning to contact their old allies. What allies? Other criminals, other monsters that are still free. They want to create an army. Rick felt sick. How many? Thousands. Maybe millions. Creatures that make the ones I absorbed look harmless. The station shook violently. Parts of the ceiling began to fall. I'm losing control, Jake said. They're getting stronger. You need to start the evacuation now. What about you? I'll hold them back as long as I can. But promise me something, Captain. What? If my plan doesn't work, if I can't create the prison, you have to destroy me. Use the biggest weapons you have. Don't let me escape into the galaxy. Rick nodded. I promise. Jake's human face appeared one last time. Thank you. At least someone will remember that Jake Morrison tried to do the right thing. The lights went out again. In the darkness, they could hear Jake's voice changing, becoming deeper and more threatening. Time to go, Commander Hayes said. Everyone, to the evacuation ships. As they ran through the hallways, they could hear the station being torn apart behind them. Metal screamed and electricity sparked. The creature that had been Jake Morrison was breaking free from its cell. Attention all personnel, came Helen's voice, but it sounded like multiple beings speaking at once. The prisoner Jake Morrison has escaped, but do not worry. We have much better plans for this facility. Rick reached the evacuation bay and started loading people onto the emergency ships. Through the windows, he could see the station's hull being eaten away from the inside. Is Jake still in there? Dr. Foster asked. I think so, but I don't know for how much longer. As the last evacuation ship prepared to leave, Rick looked back at the station. Part of it was completely dark, consumed by whatever Jake had become. But in one small section, lights were still flickering. He's still fighting, Rick said. Jake Morrison is still in there somewhere, trying to save us all. The evacuation ship pulled away from the station, just as a massive explosion lit up the darkness. The battle between Jake and the creatures inside him had begun in earnest thought and somewhere in the wreckage. A young farmer who had once grown tomatoes was making his last stand against 50,000 monsters. Captain Rick Stone watched from the evacuation ship as Void Station Omega tore itself apart. Massive explosions lit up the darkness of space. Parts of the prison were being consumed by a growing black void, while other sections seemed to be rebuilding themselves in impossible ways. How many people did we get out? Commander Hayes asked. All of them. 3,847 personnel. But we lost communication with the station 20 minutes ago. Dr. Foster was monitoring his instruments. The energy readings are incredible. Whatever Jake is doing in there, it's affecting the fabric of space itself. Through the ship's windows, they could see the station changing shape. It was growing larger in some places, smaller in others. Reality itself seemed to be bending around it. Jake, Rick said into his radio, are you still there? For a moment, there was only static. Then Jake's voice came through, weak but still. Human. I'm here, Captain, but I don't have much time left. What's happening? I'm trying to create the pocket dimension, but the creatures inside me are fighting back. They know what I'm planning. The station flashed with bright light. When it faded, part of the structure was simply gone, not destroyed, but erased from existence. They're trying to escape, Jake continued. The reality bender is tearing holes in space. The Void Walker is trying to open portals to other dimensions. They want to spread across the galaxy. Can you stop them? I'm trying, but I need more power, and I need to make a choice. Dr. Foster leaned toward the radio. What choice? I can create a small prison that will hold them but might not be permanent. Or I can create a large prison that will hold them forever, but it will cost me everything. What do you mean, everything? My life, my soul, everything that makes me human. I'll have to use my own life force as the power source for the prison. Rick felt his heart sink. There has to be another way. There isn't. I've tried everything else. The creatures are too strong, and they're learning to work together. Right now, they're combining their powers to break free. The station pulsed. With dark energy, strange lights flickered across its surface. In some areas, the metal was turning into crystal. In others, it was becoming something that looked alive. The Planet Eater is trying to consume the station's core, Jake said. The mind controller is attempting to take over the computer systems completely. The Star Killer wants to turn the whole station into a weapon. Fight them, Jake. I am fighting them, but I'm just one human consciousness against 50,000 monsters. They're winning. Commander Hayes grabbed the radio. Jake, you said you had a plan. What do you need us to do? Stay away. Get as far from here as possible. When I create the prison, it's going to affect a large area of space. How large? Big enough to make sure they can never escape. Big enough to contain something that could destroy galaxies. Dr. Foster checked his instruments. The gravitational fields around the station are changing. It's like space itself is being rewritten. Through the ship's windows, they could see the station beginning to collapse in on itself. But it wasn't a normal collapse. The structure was folding through dimensions that shouldn't exist. It's starting, Jake said. His voice was getting fainter. I'm pulling all of reality around us into a closed loop. A pocket dimension that connects to nothing. Jake, wait, Rick said. Before you do this, I want you to know something. What you're doing, sacrificing yourself to save everyone else, that's the most human thing anyone could do. Thank you, Captain. That means a lot. The creatures inside you, they don't understand sacrifice. They don't understand putting others before yourself. That's what makes you stronger than them. Jake's voice became clearer for a moment. You're right. They can take my body. They can take my powers, but they can't take my humanity. And that's going to be their downfall. The station began to glow with a strange light. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. I can see my farm, Jake said suddenly. I can see Buddy running through the tomato plants. I can remember what it felt like to be normal. Hold on to that memory. I am. It's the only thing keeping me human right now. The creatures are screaming inside my head, but I can still remember the smell of fresh earth and the sound of my dog barking. The light around the station grew brighter. Space itself seemed to be bending and twisting. I'm creating the prison. Now, Jake said, it's going to be permanent. Locked outside of normal space and time. Nothing will ever be able to escape from it. What about you? I'll be the guard, forever, making sure they never find a way out. Rick felt tears in his eyes. Jake, I'm sorry. I'm sorry this happened to you. You didn't deserve any of this. Maybe not. But somebody has to do it. And I'd rather it be me than let these monsters loose on innocent people. The station began to fade from view. It was becoming transparent, like it was moving into another dimension. Tell people what happened here, Jake said. Tell them that a farmer from Kepler 442b saved the galaxy. Tell them that humans don't give up, even when everything seems hopeless. I will. Can tell them that Jake Morrison was still human at the end. No matter what the monsters did to his body, his heart never changed. The light grew so bright that they had to close their eyes. When they opened them again, the station was gone. In its place was a strange dark spot in space. Not black like a normal void, but a different kind of darkness that seemed to exist outside of reality. Jake, Rick called into the radio. Are you there? For a long moment, there was no answer. Then, very faintly, they heard his voice one last time. "I'm here, Captain, and I'll always be here, keeping watch, making sure they never escape. Are you okay? I'm at peace. For the first time since the accident, I'm not hungry. The monsters are trapped, and they can't hurt anyone ever again." Doctor Foster was studying his instruments. "The pocket dimension is stable. It's completely cut off from our reality. Nothing can get in or out." "Good," came Jake's voice, even fainter now. "That was the plan. Will we ever see you again?" "No. But that's okay. I've found my purpose. I was meant to be here, keeping these creatures locked away. It's the most important job in the universe." Commander Hayes wiped tears from her eyes. "Thank you, Jake. Thank you for saving us all. Thank you for remembering that I was human. That's all I ever wanted, for someone to remember that Jake Morrison was a good person who tried to do the right thing." The radio went silent. The dark spot in space pulsed once, like a heartbeat, and then became still. Rick stood looking at the place where the prison had been. "Computer, begin recording. Official. Report on the Void Station Omega incident." He took a deep breath. Jake Morrison, age 34, farmer from Kepler 442b, gave his life to save the galaxy from 50,000 of the universe's most dangerous criminals. Despite being transformed into something beyond human, he never lost his humanity. He chose to sacrifice himself rather than let evil triumph. Dr. Foster added his own note. Jake Morrison proved that the strength of the human spirit can overcome any physical transformation. His final act was the greatest demonstration of human courage and selflessness in recorded history. Commander Hayes made the final entry. "Let it be recorded that Jake Morrison was the last prisoner in the universe's most impenetrable facility because he ate the rest. But he was also humanity's greatest hero, who chose love over hunger, sacrifice over power, and hope over despair." As their ship traveled away from the dark spot in space, Rick looked back one more time. Somewhere in that pocket dimension, a young farmer was standing guard against impossible evil, making sure the universe stayed safe. "Rest well, Jake," Rick whispered. "We'll make sure your story is never forgotten." A ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying the survivors back to civilization. Behind them, in a place outside of reality, Jake Morrison continued his eternal watch, the last human to face the darkness, and the first to prove that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or strength, but the willingness to sacrifice. Everything for others. In the deepest part of space, where no light could reach, a farmer's son kept the monsters at bay. Forever.